Hey guys, a little bit of a late update, but I am on page 80 in Practice Makes Perfect now, and I'm really enjoying it. I love just how light and fluffy Sarah Adams' books have all been so far. Like, I feel like they take no stress to read, they're light, fluffy. I feel like the one thing I will say is some of her other books, I've noticed, like, her characters sometimes are a little bit like cringy, and I feel like Annie is a pretty good example of that, because even in the other books she doesn't cuss at all, and so in this she's like making up cuss words that aren't really cuss words, and it's a bit, I don't know, but I do really like Annie as a character. I feel like she really reminds me of myself. She's quiet, she loves her books, and she just does much better in pretending and making up like scenarios in her head than she does actually interacting with people, and just has a lot of like social anxiety, and you know, people see her as being boring, young, childish, and just aren't really seeing the real her that she wants to project. And she definitely just struggles to kind of show who she is to people that she's not comfortable with. And like I said, it just really reminds me of myself. I feel like I do really well, and I have such a different personality once I get to know people compared to, like, I just really struggle meeting new people. So I am definitely enjoying Annie as a character, and just am really relating to her. Hey guys, so I just finished reading Practice Makes Perfect. Well, I guess I finished it last night, and just wanted to update you guys now that I've had like a day to sit and think about the book. I really enjoyed it. I liked this one even more than When in Rome, and I think I gave When in Rome like a 4-star, but I just absolutely loved this book so much. I really connected to Annie and just like her personality and certain parts of Will as well. I just feel like I loved the depth of these two characters, and this one's kind of a tough one for me to rate because I feel like it's not quite a 5-star. Like, I didn't quite get that 5-star feeling, but it was like right there. So I feel like it's one of those ones that right now I think I'm gonna give it a 4.75, but if it's one that continues to like sit in my brain, I could see it potentially being a 5-star. I can be a little bit picky with my 5-star ratings, but I love this world, I love these characters, I love the family, and I'm really excited to start the 3rd book. I haven't bought it yet, but like reading this just makes me really want to jump into that book pretty soon. I was looking today at like her books because I was curious, and it says that there's like that Beg, Borrow, and Steal is book 3 of 3. And I don't know if that's just because she hasn't decided if she wants to do more, but I don't know, I would love to see a book about Madison as well. And I just think that one would be such a good one, but I could also see it potentially being a little bit like later. So this could be a potential slight spoiler, so if you don't want a spoiler about like some of the family in this series, about some of the sisters, just skip ahead a little bit. But at the end of this book, they mention Madison finally making it into her culinary program. I feel like there was kind of sprinkles in When in Rome about how she didn't like teaching, and then in this one they kind of brought that up again about how she just did whatever Emily did, but how she loved to cook. And then at the end of this one, she makes it into culinary school and is going to be moving to New York. But they also, throughout this book, I thought about how I would have loved to see more of James. Like, I loved him as a character. I thought he was just such a sweet friend in When in Rome. And then in this one, Will thought that he was potentially like a romance interest, but he wasn't. But at the end of this one, they talked about how James was looking at Madison, and so I would love to see a book about the two of them. But I could potentially see that being like a little ways down the line of like it being maybe like a separate thing of it being these characters, but her coming back from New York and like living in her big city and having it be like more of like a second chance kind of thing. But like I said, I love this family so much, and I am just really excited to continue the series. I'm excited that I'm working my way through it and just have the one book left and trying to work through more series on my cart here. But yeah, I'm gonna try and not start another romance series at least until I read Beg, Borrow, and Steal, just so that I'm not adding more series onto my list quite yet. But the good news with that is I don't think there's really any romance books that I have on my shelves that, like, I haven't at least already started them, because there's some that I'm already like in the middle of those series anyway. But yeah, I just really loved this one, and I'm not sure what book series I'm going to read next in this video, but this is going to be kind of like a, yeah, I'm kind of looking at my cart and thinking about which ones I might want to read soon, and we will see. I feel like I have Part of Your World and Powerless by Elsie Silver on my TBR for February, so I might get into those. But I also at some point want to read The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes before that new book comes out. Let's see here, what other ones do I have on my record? Oh, I'm not sure if, I don't remember honestly, if I filmed when I read Killer Instinct, but I have All In on my cart here, so this would be another potentially good one to get to soon, because I just read I reread The Naturals and then read Killer Instinct in January. Hey guys, I wanted to update you guys on my continuing series, because I am currently halfway through this book, but I started Beg, Borrow, Steal like 2 days ago, and I'm on page 180 right now. I read a lot of it yesterday. I think I was on page like 60 before starting to read yesterday, so I should have updated you guys then, but I didn't. So here we are. This is the third book in the When in Rome series. This one just came out in January, and so far I'm really enjoying it. It's typical Sarah Adams, her small town, and I don't know, I love this town, and I love seeing the comparison between Jack and Will because of how they're perceived, because like they're both new to the town, and I feel like they got different reactions from the people in town. And granted, like, Jack isn't entirely new because he's been teaching at their school, he just hasn't lived in the town. But I feel like up until Emily told them not to be welcoming, like, they were right on board with like him joining the town. They loved him as a teacher. They just thought he was so sweet and kind and just wanted him to be a part of the town. They all wanted him to like be a part of different like things within the town. And comparing that to Will, who was like immediately shunned, and they were all immediately like, our Annie's too good for him. Like, it's just an interesting comparison because it is the same town, but granted at this point it was kind of known that Emily doesn't like Jack, so I feel like that's part of it. So something that I didn't understand about this book when I first started reading it was I thought that they were both like aspiring authors, and that they both potentially wanted to like write the same thing, like they had similar concepts that they were writing, and so they were even more rivals. But that's just like what I thought I'd heard the book was about. I mean, even on the back it says that he's writing his next mystery under his best-selling pen name, so like he's a known author. he's been writing mystery books for a long time, Emily is like aspiring to be an author, and I think it's so fun, and I feel like it's very fitting for her as a character because she kind of knows that she loves her teaching, and that's always been her thing in all the books so far, is that she loved teaching. Madison did it just because she didn't know what to do. So now that Madison is off at culinary school, I feel like having Emily kind of create a new goal was like a really good idea, and I feel like writing is something that just seemed right for her. And I do love that she's writing romance books because of the like sisters all love of romance books that we found out in Practice Makes Perfect. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I do think it was odd how quickly they became friends, but granted, they were never like full rivals. It seems like they like had one bad interaction, and then from then on just like kept up this ruse of like, we don't like each other, and they would just less like hate each other, more just they were constantly like getting in each other's way, and they were just working towards the same goals, so therefore their like goals would overlap, and they would oftentimes be trying to be like the best in the classes that they were in. It was only a matter of time before they had like a real conversation and, you know, kind of mended their ways and tried to actually be friends, because they never really did that before. It mentioned at the start of this book that like it has topics of grief in here, and I feel like so far they're doing a really good job of discussing like how Emily's coping with things, and like how she's trying to find new ways to cope, because all of it, like, she used to always flock to her family, but they all have other things and other people that they're gravitating towards during this time. So like she's having to kind of discover new ways to cope on her own, and kind of finding solace in Jack and his companionship versus being alone. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it. Like, I've always loved Sarah Adams' writing. I feel like it's so fast-paced. I mean, I read like 110 pages yesterday. So I'm hoping to finish this book in the next couple of days, and I'll probably update you guys more at the end. I know this one doesn't have a ton of updates in it, but I'm still finishing the series, and that's really exciting. And I really, really hope that we do get a Madison book, because I feel like, especially like at the end of the last book, they really sprinkled in some things about Madison that really makes me excited for her book. And I feel like we can't have 3 of the siblings and not the 4th one. So I feel like I hope that one comes out at some point. I don't want it to be anything rushed, and this is such a great series that you can like not read for a while and then jump back in. Like, you kind of need to know what happened in the other books because they like are on a same timeline, but as long as you know the characters, I feel like you know what's going on. Definitely will have to look into more Sarah Adams books. I feel like this is the series I've heard the most good things about, but I didn't mind the cheat sheet or the rule book either. I feel like they were good books. I just didn't love the sports added to them. I feel like, I don't know, the sports just wasn't... I've never read a sports romance, so I don't know anything about them, but I feel like it was done a little bit too cheesy for me. But for a small town, I feel like some of the cheesiness kind of works. That and this one I feel like has been a little less cheesy, because she definitely writes their inner monologue, but I feel like both Amelia and Annie were both like a little bit on the quirky side. Like, Amelia kind of like hid her quirkiness because she was a pop star, so she felt like she needed to. Annie was like very goofy, very quirky, and I feel like she was trying to grow out of that because she felt like it made her feel younger. But I feel like Emily is the mature oldest sister, and I feel like she is written that way. Like, there's a few little things where like you can tell she's got like a little bit of that quirkiness in there, but it's definitely not nearly the same as Annie's book. I feel like if you don't love like some of the quirkiness, you wouldn't have liked those ones, but that's not in this book. And I feel like that quirkiness was written in the cheat sheet and the rule book as well, and I didn't like it in those books. So I feel like sometimes it's done well and sometimes it's not, but it's not really present so far here. So I feel like we're really understanding that like that quirkiness truly was Annie and Amelia's personalities. And Emily has a completely different personality, and she's a bit more rough around the edges, a bit of a harder shell, and she kind of struggles with that. And I feel like it's interesting comparing her to Annie, who Annie was like so well loved by everyone, and she was trying to cope with not being the baby anymore and having people see her differently. And Emily's also wanting people to see her a little differently, but in such a different way, that like there's such broad personalities in one series, and I don't know, I'm just really enjoying that. Alright, so I have now finished both of these books, and I really enjoyed both of them. I feel like I liked both of these books better than When in Rome, and I liked When in Rome the most out of the Sarah Adams books that I've read so far. I think if I had to pick a favorite, I probably liked Practice Makes Perfect the most, just because I feel like I related a ton to Annie. I feel like her personality just really resonated with me, and I don't know, I am a youngest sibling, and I feel like I constantly struggled for a long time of being seen as someone who's more than just like, oh, she's cute, and like not taking that seriously. So I feel like that part was really interesting. But I feel like there's parts of Emily that I also really related to, because she kept a lot of her feelings like bottled up, and she was kind of going through the process of figuring out who she was on her own, and constantly wanted to be, you know, a people pleaser and just helping other people, even if it meant, you know, not letting her emotions be fully felt. And so she's kind of figuring out how to deal with processing emotions on her own, and not just like bombarding herself with a ton of other tasks and having to actually face her own feelings. And so I feel like that part of her was very, very realistic. But I think the interesting thing for me about this book in particular was that so far a lot of the Sarah Adams books that I've read, the characters are very quirky and are a lot more like Annie, where it's like there's a lot of like little jokes and stuff that they say in their head. And Emily was not like that. She was a lot more of a serious character. And so I think it was interesting to see Sarah Adams writing on that type of character and have it not be super quirky. And I think she did a really good job with it. I didn't love that this book contained spice, because the rest of them have not. Like, it wasn't a ton, it wasn't awful. Like, I've definitely read books with way more spice and a lot more details with the spice than this book had, but it still had spice there, it was still present. And I feel like even without necessarily, like at the beginning it says if you don't want spice to skip a couple chapters, there was still a little bit before those chapters. Again, it wasn't too much that it dissuaded me from the book, but still wasn't like my favorite. I think I rated Practice Makes Perfect a 5-star because I loved Annie so much. I loved her as a character, and I loved her and Will's relationship, and I don't know, I didn't love this one quite as much. It was still a good book. I think I would probably rate it like a 4.25, maybe 4-star. So yeah, I would probably say a 4-star with this one. And I'm really hoping that we get Madison's book, because I think hers could be my favorite. It's been a long time since I've read like a childhood friends to lovers, and I feel like the buildup of their book has just been so perfect. Of like, we have known Madison for now 3 full books, so to have hers be the last one, I feel like it really has just built up this relationship between her and James. And I feel like it's something that she's definitely hinted at a lot in these last 2 books. The first one, I feel like, didn't really hear much about it. Even in the second one, like, it kind of, like, Will was worried that James had a thing for Annie. And in this one, like, you could definitely tell that him and Madison have something going on. And you can tell that Madison is starting to have feelings for James as well, now that she has moved out of town. So definitely really want to see that book. No rush for it at all. I feel like this is the kind of series that no matter when that last book comes out, like, I'll remember what has happened. I don't necessarily need to know every detail of these books in order to jump into the next one. So definitely feel like whenever that book comes out, I will read it, but not a super necessity to it. But with that being said, I did finish the series that is out so far. So that is checking one series off of my TBR, which is great. And overall, I really enjoyed the series. Definitely going to pick up more books by Sarah Adams and kind of see how they compare, because I know this is one of her newer series, but I feel like I definitely want to read some more of her other books and see what I think about those ones as well. And yeah, I just feel like I really enjoyed these. I think my favorite part is that it's like the small town, and I feel like she does the small town so well. Of like, they're in a small town, it's kind of thrown in your face fairly often that they're in a small town, but it's not like everything is about the small town. But we've just gotten to know this group of characters so well, and I feel like that's what I enjoy about these, is that like we know the characters going into each book, we kind of know what to expect, and it's fun seeing how the town reacts to new people coming into town. I kind of mentioned it before of how like the difference between Will coming into town and Jack coming into town and how that kind of affected things. But I also think it would be interesting to kind of see the dynamic of the town after Jack has announced his like book and his life, because like they already have Amelia in town who's a celebrity, and now they have a second celebrity in town, so I feel like that's definitely an interesting concept, and I hope that it doesn't affect the small town too much. But I'm not sure. I think this is all I'm going to read for this video, just because I feel like this is such a perfect time to stop. I finished one series and will now start to work on finishing more series. I'm not sure exactly which one I'm going to move on to next, but like I said, at the end of the year, I'm going to go through and look at the series that I have read this year and look and see which new series I've started. So that way I'm not going to like do that every single video, but this is kind of a fun place to kind of have vlogs for individual series. And yeah, I feel like this definitely convinces me to kind of look back at some of the series that I've kind of put a pause on, and then convince myself that I need to read them. But I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you want to see more of me finishing series, I'm going to have all of these in one playlist on my channel so that they're all kind of in one spot. And like I said, not sure when I'm going to film the next one, just kind of whenever I feel like picking up a book that's in a series that I'm reading. But if you guys enjoyed the video, please subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!